intersection of my deepest needs. You were there, I knew, now you know me. But when we met, I swear I came alive. My heart turned to jelly and I'm googly-eyed. Same old story with a zesty twist. I'm ready to relax in this magical bliss that is you.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm dealing with another blank wall in my apartment. We're back in the front hallway of my apartment, and you guys are somewhat familiar with this because this is where the gallery wall is right beside me. And so I'm dealing with this blank wall. I've really been liking the macrame kind of wall hangings that I've been seeing, well, most of them. And so I thought I would try my hand at something similar. If you're new to my channel, you've never been here before, please subscribe and like this video if you do enjoy it. Thanks guys. So what you'll need to complete this project is wool, and I went with 4 different colors, and you also need something to place them on. I originally was going to do it on rings, but I ended up doing it on a curtain rod instead. And I just picked the color palette based on what I thought would look nice for the entrance of my home, and that's what I went with. And here's the curtain rod that I used. It's just half of a curtain rod. The next thing I did was figure out how long I wanted the pieces of yarn to be by holding yarn up to the wall and eyeballing what I thought looked best. When I had that length down, I figured out how many times they went around my arm, and that was the measurement that I used to cut every single piece. I would wrap the piece of wool around my arm 4 times and then cut it, and I did this repeatedly until I had cut all of the wool that I had. So next it was time to actually start putting together my wall hanging, and I started with the black wool because that's what I wanted to be at the center of my wall hanging. What I did essentially was that I grabbed each individual piece of yarn that I had pre-cut, and I would tie those onto my curtain rod. And what I ended up finding is that you want to get the knot on there as tightly as possible, and you want to repeat that tightness as you carry on because you want it to look as uniform as possible at the top. And I'm going to show this a couple times so you guys really get a good idea of what this process looked like. So I would essentially just create a loop at the bottom of the curtain rod, and then I would pull the length of the yarn through that loop and then tighten it. This was definitely what took me the longest, and I found that sitting down to do this was more feasible. So anyways, here it is again. What I did was that I would take the individual piece of yarn and then I would create a loop at the bottom of the curtain rod, and then I would pull the length of the yarn through the loop. I would then proceed to tightening the knot by pulling the opposing ends of the yarn to ensure that it's snugly on the curtain rod. And here is a look at the black section when I had completed most of it. When I was happy with how much black I had, I then moved on to the light gray, and my design was that I had light gray on either side of the black, and so I followed the same process that I've already shown you guys, and I added the light gray until I was satisfied with how much there was. So the only wool that I tied differently was this dark gray wool that I used. As you can see, or maybe you can't really tell from the video, but it's quite a lot thinner than the other wool that I used. So instead of just tying one piece of wool at a time, I would bunch 4 together and tie those together. And that was the only thing that I did differently in this whole process. And the final color of wool that I added was this off-white color. And here is a look at what the final product looked like from the top. As you can see, I had a black line in the center, and then I had light gray on either side of it, and then I had the dark gray on one end and the off-white on the other, and that's the look that I went for. When I was done with this, I then went ahead and tied a piece of the black string on either side of it to use to hang onto my wall. And I simply just looped it around and tied a bow, and then I did that on both sides, and then I cut off the excess pieces of wool. So here's what the whole thing looked like at this point hanging on my wall. And this essentially could be a look. I mean, you could just leave it like this and kind of have this shaggy look going on, but I ended up going in with my scissors to style it a specific way. So what I did is that I mapped out where I wanted to cut the yarn using masking tape. And this gave me a good visual because it enabled me to move it up or down and kind of visualize how I wanted to cut it. And then I just went in with my scissors and I cut it. And there was no really specific rhyme or reason. I kind of just played around with what I liked. I did kind of have an image in my mind of how I wanted this to look, and so I started in the middle, and then I would kind of step back, take a look at it, and then I would go back in with my scissors and style it a specific way. So you'll find that your first cut isn't usually perfect, obviously, and so you can then go back in with your scissors and really clean it up to get your lines to be a little bit straighter. But I don't think it's supposed to be one of those pieces of art where things are like super straight anyway, so even if you have a little pieces that are a bit longer than others, I think it kind of adds to the vibe that this sort of art piece gives anyways. And here is the final product, guys. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I really like the fact that it adds some texture to this wall and to this area in my apartment. I think the color palette ties in really well with the other colors in this area, and I just really like it. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that I taught how to do this well, and if you did enjoy, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Until next time, guys.
We're in a world of our own, dancing to our own drum.